Hey everyone, it's Casey out here in nature, and welcome to another episode of Fresh Air. I hope you're having an amazing day and an amazing week. And today, in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the 5 tragedies that changed my life. 5 tragedies that made my life better. So again, on this video, we're going to be talking about the 5 tragedies that changed my life for the better. You might be experiencing one of them right now, so hopefully this video is a blessing to you. Thanks for tuning in. Sometimes we look at and we think of tragedy as always horrible and bad, and we only see the bad in it. But I hope by the end of this video that you will have a completely different view of what tragedy actually is and what it can do for you. The first tragedy is hunger. And when I say hunger, I'm not talking about, I woke up and I feel like I need a burger, or I feel like I need some chips, or, I feel like I could eat something. I'm talking about not eating for 3 days, despite the fact that you actually want to eat. That kind of hunger. And I know in most cases, we don't think about hunger as something beneficial or as something positive. But I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you right now to reinterpret the way you think about tragedy. I want to challenge you to reinterpret the way you think about your circumstances. And so if you are in a position where hunger might be real for you, you may not have the means to get the food or to get the resources that you need, what'll that actually do for you? Well, I'll tell you what it did for me. It was my first year in college. In fact, it really was my first year. I was at a different place mentally, for obvious reasons, than I am now. And I found myself in a position where my parents really couldn't help me at the time. And I decided that I was not going to quit. I decided I wasn't going to drop out. I was going to finish my degree. And what that meant, is without a source of income and without somebody supporting you, then, what does that really mean? Like, how are you going to pay your tuition? How are you going to get food? Obviously, which is what I'm talking about in terms of hunger. How are you going to find lodging? And that became a real struggle for me. I'm not, bullshitting. I'm actually being honest. It became a real struggle just to eat on a daily basis. And I put this one as number 1 because I believe it was the best thing that ever happened to me. One of the best things that ever happened in my life. And to this day, it continues to pay dividends. It continues to create that spark inside me that says, you know what, I will never, as long as I have breath, and as long as I have an opportunity, and as long as I have a snowball's chance in hell, I am not going to be hungry, and I'm not going to allow it for my kids. Now, at the time, it sucked. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to front about that. It is not by any stretch of the imagination a good thing when you're hungry. And when I say not a good thing, it hurts physically, it hurts emotionally, and it hurts spiritually. You kind of feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel in a lot of cases. But it inspired me. It inspired me to begin to look within and to begin to look for what I could do to change my circumstances. So instead of looking at or for someone else to rush in and help me, I discovered that there was a lot of power, personal power, in looking inside for what God had already given me, Like, what were my gifts? What were my talents? What were my skills? What could I actually rely on to help me? Instead of looking outside for the cavalry to come riding in and for someone to, give me a handout or to give me something to help me, it turned into, how can I begin to help myself? And the fact that I actually had more to give than I ever thought possible. So hunger was the first tragedy that I experienced in life very early on. I think I was probably about 18 at the time, maybe 17. And it made a huge difference in my life, and I guarantee it'll make a huge difference in yours if you let it. Now, the second tragedy of the 5 tragedies that changed my life for the better is loneliness. Now, I know in a lot of cases we don't think of loneliness as a good thing. In fact, in most cases, you could probably think of it as something that really sucks. No one wants to be lonely. No one wants to be alone for the most part. But I'm going to tell you right now, or I'm going to ask you, take a different view of what loneliness actually is and what the benefits of it are, if you really start to think about it differently. I remember, and the reason I'm talking about the 5 tragedies today, I'll give credit to a woman I met many years ago when I worked as a director in a Washington Post subsidiary. She said to me, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." And that phrase, that saying, I don't know where she got it from. I don't know who coined it first, but whoever you are, thank you, because it made a phenomenal difference to me. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So I'm talking about the second tragedy that changed my life for the better, which is loneliness. Now, why would I say that? Why would someone say loneliness actually has a good side? For the most part, no one wants to be alone. No one wants to be lonely. In fact, they've got a phrase that says loners and losers. And I want to challenge you to think about loneliness in a different kind of way. Here's what it did for me, and maybe this will be beneficial to you. I spent a lot of time by myself. I really did. I spent a ton of time, still to this day, spend a lot of time by myself. Now, I can't claim to be an introvert anymore, but as a kid, I was definitely a big introvert. In fact, my own parents and my siblings, people at school, the schools that I went to as a kid, would often try to make me laugh or to try to make me talk because of how introverted I was. Within the crucible of that loneliness, my own inner loneliness, it did 3 really critical things for me that it can potentially do for you. Number 1 is it taught me to be comfortable by myself, to be comfortable being alone. Now, why is that important? Because most of your creativity, most of your self-healing, most of your self-worth, most of your time on this planet, even if you're born a twin, most of your time on this planet will actually be spent by yourself. And if you can't figure out how to be comfortable in your own skin by yourself, hanging out with yourself, figuring out things you can do, things you can read, videos you can watch, development that can happen when you are by yourself, I challenge you that you may not be creative or as creative as you could be. You may not be as self-sufficient as you could be. And you may be leaving some things on the table for yourself. So let me expand that a little bit. All the quotes that I wrote, the book that I'm working on, the inspirations that have come to me, the value that has come to me has come a lot of times when I was by myself. And I remember when I was younger, sometimes I used to, get really emotional about the fact that no one understood me or that I'd spend a lot of time by myself. But then it really clicked for me when I went away to boarding school. In high school, I went to a boarding school. And it really began to click for me because I realized there's a lot of personal power in being self-sufficient. There's a lot of personal power in being able to say, hey, you know what? Today I didn't talk to another human being, but I was comfortable by myself and I created something and I did something different. There's a lot of power in that. You may be, I don't know where you are in life. It may be a point where you're feeling alone, like no one understands you, or like no one is there for you, or like no one's going to help you. I can tell you right now that sometimes that's a good place to be. If you look at it the right way, it can actually turn things around for you. Because when no one can have power over you to feel like you need them or like, you have to rely on them for something, that's a powerful place to be. Now, you don't have to be snooty about it and you don't have to be completely antisocial about it. But if you have the power enough to say, you know what, this crowd is not going the way that I want to go or the life that I want to create as a person, so I'm going to be by myself for a little bit and work on myself, it makes a ton of sense. I don't know if I'm getting through to you, but I'm telling you, it did a lot for me, especially early on. Especially feeling like, no one pretty much understood me or what I was going through. It was very, very critical to go through loneliness, to really begin to come into myself and to embrace it, not to be afraid of it, and to use it as excellent time to work on myself, to work on a project, or to plan for the future. It's a really, really good time to get creative and to plan for the future and to download inspiration. So I encourage you, loneliness is tough, but don't think of it as always a bad thing. It may actually help you come into a full understanding of yourself. As always, I encourage you to like and subscribe to my channel where I create videos that I hope bring a lot of value to you and to your friends and to your family, and that can potentially change your life.